This week on the Frame Savers, for Christmas we give each other coal. Welcome to the Frame Savers. We are a retro video game podcast that focuses on speedrunning. Speedrunning is a hobby where we try to beat video games as quickly as possible, using whatever tricks, glitches, and strategies we have available to us. And this is episode 86. 86. And this is our Christmassy episode, right? I mean, this is going to release, I think, around Christmassy time.
Yeah, it's about a week before Christmas that you're listening to this, if you're listening to the audio version.
Yeah, and we are going to be doing a little gift exchange of our cart swap episode, cart swap number 4. Real excited to do this, but before we dive into those, Chad, how you doing, buddy?
I've been pretty good. I took a little break off of streaming for about a week while I wrapped up my semester at work, but you know, now I'm back in it, trying to do some speedrunning, especially since now my semester's wrapping up and I can actually give it some attention. How about you?
I have been speedrunning Parasite Eve lately, so that's been a lot of fun. I have been grinding away a bit, you know, moving up the leaderboard. I started a new job, so I haven't had as much time as I did have before for speedrunning. So mostly focused on that. I've done a couple of Game Boy Quest games, and that's been fun. And yeah, outside of that, just trying to get into this grind of streaming after work again. It's tiring. They make me do stuff at work, then they make me do it on stream.
How dare they ask you to?
They don't pay me enough for either of them. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, but I mean, you've been having to find your rhythm again. That's I'm sure that's been an extra challenge.
I've been waking up about 12 hours earlier in the day than I was before, so that's been good. There's a 6:30 in the morning. I didn't know that. So I thought it was just a nighttime thing. So yeah, but I've been enjoying doing some speed runs, and I got more speed runs coming up for me, and I've been working on the game you gave me for cart swap number 4, which I'm not going to spoil here in the intro.
Yeah, despite it being on screen right now and the box art, and
don't look below. I don't want to spoil it for you.
Don't whatever you do, don't look down. Stop.
What else is exciting that I'm going to be up to is I'm going to be on a different show this time next week, but it's our show.
Oh, yeah. What kind of show is it?
I think it's like a cooking show where we each cook, and then like the people pretend they know which one tastes better. And they're like, oh, Chad should have won that one. His souffle looked better. Is that...
Okay, we actually had a different show in mind, but I want to make that show instead. That sounds like a lot more fun.
I cook like 4 things, so it's gonna... If people like eggs, then they're gonna love this show because I cook some eggs sometimes.
I mean, if I like one of the 4 things, then I think we're gonna be okay ultimately.
That wouldn't be fair because honestly, Chad's like a secret, like really good cook. Like, you know how to cook things.
I'm an Iron Chef.
He's like, oh, I need to get some garlic clove to make the meal today. It's like, that's never something I've said when I'm going to the store. You know what I mean? Like,
I appreciate that where you tried to fill in some sort of really esoteric ingredient, you picked garlic.
No, but that's
I feel like that tells the whole story.
Your normal dude, I feel like, is like, okay, I'll sprinkle some garlic salt on it. But no, you're the kind of guy who like gets the garlic clove, chops it up. You know what I mean? I bet you know how to buy a pepper and then you cut it into peppers. Like, I can't do that. I have no idea. So that stuff's really impressive to me, at least. So.
Oh my god, I want to talk to you about what you think cooking looks like.
There's a lot of like children out there who can't walk that watch us walk and they're impressed. That's me with cooking. I'm like, oh wow.
Sometimes
you cut that pepper and turned it into pepper.
Sometimes I see people post pictures of ingredients that they purchased for some meal that they're going to make, and it's a lot of like boxes of pre-cut vegetables, and I'm like,
Yeah.
well, you just spent like 4 times as much on all those vegetables. Why did you do
Yeah.
that?
Because we don't know. We don't know how to do it. It's
I'm just
like,
imagining that they don't own knives for their own protection.
do you pay people to change the oil in your car?
I do, but I also know how
Yeah.
to change my own oil,
Yeah,
so
but
I
yeah,
guess
but
this
it's a lot
metaphor is
cheaper.
playing out.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot cheaper. I don't know. I don't know how to do a vegetable. I barely understand how to cook at all. I don't know.
Okay.
So, anyways, we're doing not that show. That's not the show we're doing. We're going to be doing world record review. So we are our website is updated now. If you go to theframesavers.com, you'll notice that Chad put a ton of work in. He made it look really cool, and there's some new tabs up on the top. And one of them is a submission panel, submission button. I
Form.
don't know. Yep,
Form.
something like that.
Yep. A
Form.
form for submitting
A
your world
form.
records.
Yeah, so you can submit any world records that you've gotten the past 2 weeks, I guess, since the last episode or past couple weeks. And we're going to do a little show where we're just going to kind of casually talk about them. It's not going to be as formal as this. We won't have as much, actual planned research. We're going to be more like reacting to these cool runs and kind of talking a little bit about each game and just having a lot of fun. And so I'm really looking forward to that. We're going to be doing those on the Sundays in between our normal episodes that we've been doing. So right now we've been doing episodes on Twitch every other week. Now we'll have content every single Sunday night.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of work, but I think it'll be a lot of fun. And whereas this is definitely a show that's supposed to be geared toward informing you about speedruns, our record review show is really more angled toward letting you know what's going on in the community and, getting everyone together to celebrate these things. For games that aren't your big name games like Super Mario 64 and Ocarina of Time and things like that, a lot of times new records come and go and they fly completely under the radar, and we want to make sure that we're able to shine a spotlight on all of the hard work that people are doing in the community.
Absolutely. We had some people reply back, well, all the runs I do are uncontested and whatever. And it's like, that's what the show's for, though. We want to highlight these games that, people are routing and people are running for the first time and show them to the world. So if you're routing any new games, or if you, happen to just bop somebody in your speed game and you want, a little celebration time, put it on the old form. You called it a form? Internet form, an electronic form that I guess they need to get electronic pencils to fill that out, or how does that work?
Nope. You can do it right on your computer or on your mobile. It's a mobile friendly website, so
Okay.
do
But you
all of that.
You don't need a pencil. Okay.
I don't think you will need a pencil ultimately. You can
Okay.
print out the form and fill it out by hand, but if you mail it to me, I'm not sure it'll actually make it onto the show. So
It'll be hard to clip the video from your physical form that you clipped out. I mean, you could do like a flip book, showing us the frame by frame. But yeah, so we're looking forward to that. So that will be the first one will be next Sunday night. So come check that out. What is that date? I don't know. The 16th. So really excited about that. We also got some cool upcoming events in the speedrunning community. We got RTA in Japan 3 coming up December 26th to the 31st. So finish off your year with some RTA. And you can find that on twitch.tv/RTA in Japan. Is that mostly just speedruns of all kinds, or is there any specific?
Yeah, it's a wide variety. I mean, the Japanese RTA community is definitely a lot more RPG focused. So you'll definitely see a lot more runs like that, but it is a general purpose marathon that actually takes place in Japan, featuring actual Japanese runners, which is something, we've mentioned before with RTA in Japan. We don't often, as Western speedrunners, get to see much into the Japanese speedrunning community. They don't typically stream on Twitch. They tend to be slightly more insular in that way, and so this is a rare glimpse into who the up-and-coming and prominent runners are in the RTA community in Japan. So it's a really great opportunity to see what's going on.
Yeah, definitely check that out. Again, December 26th to the 31st. We also have a little known event, AGDQ 2019, coming January 6th to the 13th. You can find that at twitch.tv/gamesdonequick. It's going to be for the Prevent Cancer Foundation. So maybe save some donations. Not ones that you were going to give to us. Definitely don't save those at all. But maybe ones you're going to give to worse streamers. Don't give them to them and give them to the Prevent Cancer, or also to us. No, that's obviously for a good cause. Be a lot of fun. Chad and I will both be there. So if you are attending and you're a fan of the Frame Savers, come swing by. We are doing a live episode there. So we're going to be doing. Can we announce what it is going to be? I never know.
Yeah, we don't usually promote it much in advance, but at AGDQ we're going to be doing a panel where we're doing a live episode on Punch Out and Super Punch Out, probably primarily Punch Out. But we'll have Sinister there, and we're currently working out the details about other panelists, but it'll definitely have Sinister one on. It's going to be really great. He's a great guy to talk to, and Punch Out is a really interesting speed game. Unlike pretty much anything else that's out there, it's so unique in so many ways, and so we're really excited to get an opportunity to talk about that game live at AGDQ. So if you're going to be there, we will announce on Twitter and probably on a future episode when our actual time slot is. Make sure you're there. Check us out. We'll be there to shake hands and kiss babies.
Absolutely. And Sinister One is a very good looking man. So at least go for that alone, just for the eye candy.
Yeah, he's going to raise the average rank of all of us on the panel to like a 9.5, but that's just because he's like a 16. So.
Yeah. So moving on from that, what is cart swap? This is our fourth one. How many? We've swapped some carts in the past.
Yeah, this sort of goes a bunch of different ways. You know, we've had a variety of different amounts of success. The last time we did it, we both got a world record, and this time we both managed to pretty much finish a run. So, you know, it really just kind of spans the gamut.
Yeah. You know, I thought we were trending in a good positive direction. You know, the last one we both got world records. We both pretty much liked the games we got. But we're back to our old tricks again. I don't know if this one's going to be as much fun in terms of what we already did, but I think the episode will be just as much fun because I have a lot of complaining to do. People might like complaining. I don't know. Maybe they don't. But I'm going to complain.
These episodes are a lot of fun because not only does it give us an opportunity to learn more about a game, when we actually do these episodes, I feel like we are so much better prepared to talk about these games. We were actually talking about when we were making notes about how, oh, well, we don't have to write down quite as much because we're speaking from firsthand experience for a lot of this. But in addition to that, there's a lot of games that don't necessarily flesh out into a full episode very well. And having firsthand experience to be able to talk about the firsthand experience of learning the game and running the game and what went into that can help to flesh out a full episode. So it allows us to talk about a wider array of games, which I think is really great.
Yeah, and I would also say, you know, generally when we're picking speed games for ourselves, we're picking stuff that we would pick. Obviously, that's how that sentence would work in reality. But in this situation, somebody else is picking our speed game for us. So it forces us to learn games that we would never learn, you know, previously, and possibly different styles of games, different types of, you know, even if it's within the platforming genre, maybe a game that has kind of different physics than I would normally choose for my speed game or different controls. And so it kind of stretches you as a speedrunner, at least to experience some different content that you probably wouldn't have picked for yourself. So I've enjoyed these episodes quite a bit. They can be frustrating. The weeks leading up to them can be frustrating. The prep where I have to speedrun a game I don't maybe like as much, but the episodes I think are pretty fun, and I'm excited. I've got so many words to say, so many complaints, but I think we're gonna go back in time right now, aren't we?
Yeah, if you saw the way we did Cart Swap number 3 as a video and doing it live, we've actually already pre-recorded our exchanging of the games. It's relatively short, but it'll allow you to see before we actually knew what game we were dealing with. So we'll watch that, then we'll come back and we'll talk about our experience with the game.
Yeah. So this is our fourth cart swap episode. We have had mixed success throughout the years doing this little project. I love this idea because I came up with it, and it's a good idea. So that's
every idea John has is a good idea.
Yeah, it makes me feel good. No, I have like 1 out of 10. Like I'm a real bad batter here. I'm not starting on the baseball team here, but when I get a hit, I'm proud of it. Okay, so you know, last time you gave me a great game. You gave me Zen Intergalactic Ninja for the Game Boy.
You gave me a good game too.
So I'm less nervous than I was last time, but you know, it's still a scary prospect. You're deciding how I use my time in the future. So you're going to go ahead and give me a series of clues, I believe, for me to see what game I get. So I'll let you go ahead.
Yeah, so I've just got a list of clues here. I'm going to give you a clue, and you either say, I need another one, or you're going to go ahead and pitch out an idea, all right?
Okay.
So to start off with, we're just starting easy. I asked John what he wanted to do. He said, come on, man, cut out the Game Boy. I hate Game Boy games. And so this time we're going with Super Nintendo. It's a Super Nintendo game.
Okay, so it's probably Wicked 18 Golf.
Yes, you got it.
Nice,
That's
nailed it.
amazing.
I'm so good.
I'm really
Who'd have thought?
surprised that you got that. We're definitely
Yeah.
doing a
Okay.
golf game on the frame savers.
I obviously need another clue.
Okay, so the next one is that it is speedrun by LaHulk.
Oh Lord. Okay, so that's why I can't get world record. That makes sense. Okay, go
Yeah,
next one.
I talked about this in advance and I said
Now I get it immediately. Okay.
Okay, so it takes place in a jungle.
Jungle. Is it the Jungle Book?
It's not the Jungle Book, but that would have been a really good one.
No, it wouldn't have. Thank you for not being the Jungle Book. Okay. Next
All right.
clue.
I don't know if LaHulk has LaHulk run
Is it
the
Jungle Book really hard, or is it the NES one that's really hard? Maybe it's the NES one that's like brutally difficult.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I know that the Jungle Book is pretty rough. I played through that one with our friend CT Conqueror, and I had to put on a code for infinite game overs or infinite continues just to finish it. So you're lucky that I didn't give you Jungle Book. All right, so the next one is that Entertainment Weekly gave it a B+.
Oh, is it Wicked 18 Golf for the Super Nintendo?
You know as well as I do that Entertainment Weekly never reviewed Wicked 18 Golf.
Okay, next one.
All right, so it's based on a game from the Atari 2600.
Interesting. Pitfall?
It is. It's Pitfall: The Mayan Adventure.
Okay, interesting. I don't know how I emotionally feel about this, but okay,
my last hint, I didn't get to my last hint, but my last hint was try not to fall in a pit. So,
oh, that's a pretty. I see how that would have led me to Pitfall.
Yeah.
Like with the words that you would have said. But
yeah,
hey, I got it one before that. Not bad.
No, I had several more. I had that it was played at AGDQ 2017, and that Indiana Jones isn't the only guy who gets to visit Mayan ruins.
So did I get it sooner than you thought I would?
Yeah.
Nice.
I actually, as I was going through my hints, realized that I put the Indiana Jones hint really high up, and I kept moving it down, trying to put
you just felt like that one was really going to clue me in.
It was going to give it away.
Okay, well, interesting. I remember this game a little bit as a kid. I remember one of my best friends had this game. It was one of those, my friend has the game and I don't, so I remember playing it a little bit at his house, but I don't know much more than that. It's definitely not the kind of game I would choose for myself, but we'll see. Hopefully I will find the joy and love in this game. So I know it's a lot of platforming.
Yeah, I picked this game because, well, for a combination of reasons. You said you wanted to do a SNES game, so I was trying to give you something that actually had some speedruns already in existence, and LaHulk has run this game, so it's a good place to start, as well as having an AGDQ run, so there were people talking about the game, so any sort of information you might need could possibly appear there. And then in addition to that, it was one of the shorter of the options I had in front of me. The world record's about 10 minutes, so I thought that this would be a really good fit for you. I mean, yeah, we sometimes we get world records during cart swaps, sometimes we don't, but I figured that even if you end up not loving it, a 15-minute speedrun's not that bad.
Yeah,
so
we're ending that streak clearly here on Card Swap 4. Card Swap 3, we both got world records, so that was pretty lit. We're probably, I don't think on both sides we're probably continuing that, but you're definitely more likely to get it than I am now that I know the Hulk's involved. So tell me about Pitfall: The Mayan Adventure.
I told John before, I said, does it make you more or less excited about the game to know you may not get world record in it? And he said, I don't think that affects much. So I ended up deciding to go.
I'm trying to become less world record culture. You know, I just want to enjoy speedrunning. I'm trying.
You gotta have a good time. So
we're all competitive though.
This game was developed and published by Activision for the Super Nintendo in 1994. It was developed by Activision and Redline Games, which is apparently a company that there is no information that exists for this company. I tried to find information on Redline Games, and I found a modern game company called Redline Games, but it is very clearly not the same company. So.
Wow.
I couldn't find anything on this other company that was mentioned, but this game actually had a lot of releases on a lot of platforms. It was on Super Nintendo, and that's the version John will be playing. Unless he chooses to play the Genesis version or the Sega CD version, which also released.
Maybe I'm just gonna play the Atari version. You can play the Atari version inside the SNES version.
You can.
So maybe I'll do that.
Yeah, the original Pitfall game actually appears in game. You can like go through a door and play the game. So
I
that's pretty
remember
cool.
that as a kid. We would play around with the original Atari Pitfall game in this Pitfall game, and it was fun. It was a
Yeah,
lot of fun.
it's really cool. It was released in 1995 as well for Sega for the 32X, Jaguar, and PC. And what's interesting about the fact that it released for PC was this was actually the first commercial release for Windows 95. So this was the first game that was specifically commercially released targeting Windows 95, which was brand new at the time.
So should I buy a Windows 95 machine and do that run, or?
No, but you actually can find like abandonware versions of the
Sure.
game. So
That's cool.
if that's what you're into. There was a GBA port of it in 2001 for the Wii VC in 2009, so it has appeared on a variety of systems.
So I can probably pick whatever version I want. I could do the GBA version. Is that world record open?
Probably it's more open than the
Nice.
SNES version. I'll say that much.
Okay, well maybe I'll hop on that. I don't know.
So in this game, you play as the son of Pitfall Harry. So you play Pitfall Harry Jr., the son of the protagonist of Activision's 1982 Pitfall. By the way, whenever you say the name of the original game, Pitfall, you have to say it like this: Pitfall, because it ends in an exclamation point.
Oh,
So,
it does. That's a good point.
yeah, so that was for the Atari 2600, and so you're playing as Pitfall Harry Jr. as he travels through a Mayan jungle and ruins in search of his missing father. The PC version was actually based on an engine that was originally or was eventually used for the game Earthworm Jim Special Edition, so you know it's good.
Absolutely.
And just a little bit about the reception of this game. So, I mean, just in general, it's a platformer where you're going through jungles, swinging on vines, picking up collectibles. There's extra lives strewn throughout, and checkpoints and items you can pick up. It's a pretty straightforward platformer, really arcadey in the sense that it's kind of circuitous how to get around, and it can be a little bit punishing at times, which I always find those to be really enjoyable speedruns in the sense that the game is clearly designed to just prevent you from actually seeing the whole game. And so when you practice and you learn your way through it, it becomes a lot more fun, I think. So
Absolutely. This
um,
game, I mean, this game was super influential. Like the Atari version, I think a lot of us could like look at SMB1 as kind of like the first platformer, but really Pitfall was the revolutionary when it came to side-scrolling platforming. Like this was a very new thing on the Atari, and it was, you know, for Super Nintendo and PlayStation, there was like this era of like trying to get these IPs from the Atari age into more modern gaming for the time. And so like there were a bunch of Pac-Man games on the SNES. There's this Pitfall game on PlayStation. I have a bunch of them that are like Centipede, Asteroids, like but 3D. And so like Atari's really tried to revamp and like relaunch these IPs several times, and this was kind of the first run of that, I guess. And I guess they had middling success. This game I think was sold okay. I mean, I saw it as a kid at least. And
yeah, it sold within a year of the game releasing. It had already sold 1 million copies, which is
yeah, that's really good.
pretty good. I mean, that's more than like I was trying to look up some sales figures to get some perspective about how much that actually is. Kirby Superstar I think sold less than 1 million by this point in its release. I mean, it's hard to compare it to a lot of other games.
Sure.
The Mario games are going to be between 5 and 10 million sales.
Sure.
So it's hard to compare with it, but I mean 1 million sales is pretty good, especially considering how many platforms it was on. I think it really helped that it was the first commercially available Windows 95 game. I seem to recall, I was trying to find them. I couldn't find any examples of it, but I seem to recall this game getting advertised very heavily when Windows 95 came out as being like the first commercially available PC game for Windows 95. So that probably contributed a lot to its really good sales. I mentioned
I want to
that.
speedrun the first commercially available video game for Windows ME personally, if you could
Okay.
figure out what that is.
Yeah, I'll look into it.
Okay,
That'll be
thanks.
next cart swap. That'll
Okay,
help
perfect.
you nail it down. Entertainment Weekly, I mentioned, gave this game a B+. I still don't understand why suddenly we're seeing so much of Entertainment Weekly's video game reviews.
You know what happened? Somebody went. We do look at Wikipedia a decent bit. Sorry, like we're not the best researchers in the world, and I think somebody just went through Wikipedia and started adding these fake Entertainment Weekly reviews to see if we were going to start mentioning them on the podcast.
Just to screw with us.
They punked us. They punked us good.
That's actually a good point, because I usually try to like follow up on. I mean, if we're going to look at Wikipedia, I usually try to like follow up on their sources.
Sure.
can't find a whole lot about these Entertainment Weekly
Somebody's
reviews.
out there.
So
One of you listeners is out there at like, cause who's going to the Pitfall SNES Wikipedia page and like content checking that right now in 2018? I know you all are. You're tricking us. You're tricking us.
So as far as how it was reviewed, Famitsu, which is a very famous Japanese publication around this time, gave the game a 30 out of 40. So that's pretty reasonable, especially for
Weird
Famitsu.
scale.
Yeah, they had like a 40-point scale where it was broken down into like 10 points for this, 10 points for this, if I remember correctly. And
Okay.
30, I mean, just based on Famitsu scores I've seen before, it's pretty above average, so that's actually pretty good. And the SNES version, I mean, all the versions got their own reviews. People reviewed them differently, and even though they were ports, they all had sort of some unique changes. I remember one of the things I was reading about was that some of the ports of this game actually, when you go in and you play the original Pitfall in game, some of the ports actually had some like changes they made to the game. So they like added content, maybe added extra levels, or changed the way that the game played slightly. So that was one of the changes that I noted from different versions, from version to version. But this game got some mixed reviews. GamePro praised it pretty heavily, saying it was some of the best character animations ever seen in a SNES game. But then there was another publication, Next Generation, who's even heard of that, says run-of-the-mill graphics and sound combined with gameplay that is, at best, tedious and uninspired, leave Pitfall interesting as a novelty, but not much else. And I just want to put out there that maybe if they didn't have such a negative attitude, people would know who Next Generation was.
Wow. The hot burn on Next Generation magazine website. I don't know what it is, but they need some balm. They need to get some balm fast.
Seriously. So I think that we'll probably hear a lot more about this game. I'm looking forward to you telling us a little bit about how it actually plays. I remember having played this a few times. It's kind of one of those, it's one of those platformers that has this really crazy camera that always feels like it's flying around really fast. I think it's going to end up being fun to play, especially once you master it, but I think that's going to take a little bit of effort. So I'm really looking forward to what you end up thinking about this game, and I think we'll hear a lot more about that pretty soon.
Okay. So I am tentatively, like, I would never pick this game to run for myself, but I'm tentatively,
It's always a good start.
like, this could be interesting. That's what makes this, taking me out of my comfort zone. So that'll be fun. And I've only speedrun like 2 or 3 SNES games, so it'll be good to do. So should we go ahead and hop into mine?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so I got some clues for you, my friend. Do you like games made for the Nintendo Entertainment System?
For the NES?
Mm-hmm.
Not a big fan.
Commonly known as the NES in its in the modern vernacular, or the NES even.
I mean, gun to my head, I guess. Sure, I'd play a NES game.
Do you like games with tons of precise platforming?
I'm already not excited about this.
Do you like games containing ninjas?
If you make me play Ninja Gaiden, I'm gonna freak out.
That's too big of a game. Come on.
Okay, all right. I have been known to enjoy a ninja game from time to time.
Do you like games with bumpin' Eastern influenced tunes?
Is this the part where I start guessing games? Because I got a few in mind right now.
You can.
Is it Super Ninja Boy?
It is not.
Okay. Is it just Ninja-kun?
No.
Okay. Those are the two I was worried about.
Okay. So, do you like games where the video game title contains the name of an EPL soccer team? Which I know you're not going to know what that is. It's a really good hint if you knew English Premier League, though.
Okay, I'm going to look up English Premier League. No, I don't find that I often pick my games based on that information.
Okay. Do you like games made by Asmic?
Is it a game with the name Liverpool? No. Asmic. Oh, I know that company. They made that really cool NES game, Asmic-kun, Super Asmic-kun, something like that. I don't know. I'm not really familiar with that one.
Do you like games with doggos that are good boys?
It's Family Dog. It's Family Dog. We figured it out.
Not Family Dog. That's not even on this. That's not on the NES.
Oh yeah, that's right. We're on the NES.
And it has no ninjas. And what soccer team is named Dog or Family?
I don't know. The Wolves?
Okay. Do
I
you
did
like
look up. I
games?
did look up the English Premier League. I'll tell you that much.
Did it help at all?
I don't. It doesn't. It didn't actually. I wouldn't. I wouldn't say I feel
There's only
better.
20 team names to read there.
Uh,
Let me give you 1 second and produce awkward podcasting
Arsenal,
just to see. No, that's a good one though. That could actually be in a title. Do you like
Newcastle.
games that involve conquesting?
Oh my God! It's Crystal Palace.
Yep.
Conquest of the Crystal Palace.
Yep.
Oh
That's
my
what it
God! I've
is.
actually really wanted to speedrun that game for a really long time.
Of course you have, because I'm a good friend and I know what you like. Okay, so this game was released in 1990 in North America and Japan. It was developed by Quest. So Quest is best known for making Ogre Battle. Key members of this team for Quest, who I'd never heard of before, actually left to join Square and help make Final Fantasy Tactics and Vagrant Story, which is pretty cool. And it was also published by Asmik Corporation of America, who made a lot of games for Game Boy, NES, SNES, stuff like that. So the lore is that years prior to the events of the game, the kingdom of the Crystal Palace was conquered by an evil being named Zaris, who crowned himself king, which seems like, I guess it makes sense, right?
We're
If you're
not a
gonna
big
take
fan
over
of that, though,
something.
right? The
Yeah,
conquest.
it seems like we don't like that he did that. So
Okay.
only Zap, who is a dog who served as the keeper of the Crystal Palace, and Farron, the kingdom's infant prince, managed to escape. And so as the game begins, Zap, your good doggo buddy, explains, I guess he talks to you, explains to the now teenage Farron that the time has come to retake Crystal Palace. And so he gives this Farron character one of 3 magical crystals to help them basically retake this area. Okay. So it's your typical NES platformer, 5 stages. At the beginning of the game, you get to choose between 3 crystals. So you can choose between a flight crystal, which increases your jump, a life crystal, which increases your health, and a spirit crystal, which gives you unlimited fireballs. And then all of the other power-ups can be found as temporary power-ups, not permanent ones, throughout the game for player drops, or there's these stores and a shopkeeper named Kim. You can buy them from those shops. And so your attacks, you can use your sword. You can find scrolls or buy scrolls that'll let you do long range attacks. And you can also summon your doggo Zaris to attack enemies. And apparently he goes crazy and kills all the enemies on the screen. So, I mean, I don't know. What do you know about this game? I mean, it's about a 12-minute speed run. Our friend Spiderweb speedruns it.
I played
And,
this
yeah.
for I think a mystery tournament or something. Maybe I played it for an episode of Speed Gaming League. I know I've played a very small amount of this game. That's what I know. And I remembered really liking it. It's a really unique kind of game. I hadn't really experienced much like it at the time. I mean, it's not like groundbreaking. It doesn't
Sure.
defy genre or anything like
Yeah.
that. But it's a really unique game. The combat in it, there's this, a lot of platformers like this, there's this natural sort of, can I attack enemies quickly or do I just avoid? But enemies start to pile up in this game, and so that's something you have to address. And there's also like these big epic boss fights, I remember.
Yeah.
So I've had this one on my list for a really long time. It felt daunting to me, but it's probably not. It's probably just something I've been putting off. So
It seems like the first level is real reset heavy, and I know you're in love with your reset button, so I felt
absolutely.
like that would work for you. I mean, it's really intense platforming. Some of the end levels looked like a bit repetitive, like kind of not interesting for a speedrun perspective, but no run's perfect. Ultimately, it seems like a really fun action platformer that seems to have been reviewed as having pretty tight controls and pretty interesting stuff. I know our friend Spiderweb's run it a bunch, and I was looking through Toad's list of short NES games, and I was like, I think Oth would like this game.
Am I confusing this game for a different one? The is this the game where at the beginning you get to choose like what school you're from and it affects some stats of yours? I feel like I might be confusing it with a different game.
You might.
Okay.
The reception, there were really not many reviews to be found. GameSpot user reviews, there were 33 users, I guess, that logged into GameSpot.com. It got an average 7.5 out of 10. But Honest Gamer's website, I read this to Chad before the podcast, says, if you happen across Conquest of the Crystal Palace, you're likely to get your money's worth. But that's mostly only because you're probably not going to pay much to acquire it. So That's a interesting.
Yeah, I just looked it up. At the beginning of the game, you get to choose which of the three
Three
crystals you
crystals. Yeah, that's
use.
what I was saying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's Spirit Crystal increases your weapon power, Life Crystal increases your health, and Flight Crystal increases your jump, which is kind of a
I just said
cool.
that. I just
I know,
said that, my
I
dude.
know, but I'm just saying it's a neat mechanic. This idea
Yeah,
that you can sort
absolutely.
of you can sort of play it a variety of different ways. Like one of them is very clearly going to be the best. Spirit Crystal's probably the speed run,
Probably.
but
No, I mean I don't know because I mean there's a lot of damage boosting in this run, so it could be the life, it could be
it's
the
true.
jump to make certain platforms. I'm not really sure how it works, but it does seem like a really cool run. I know Spiderweb enjoys it quite a bit, and I've watched him play it. It is reset heavy, but I just have to urge you to not do what you did with the Smurfs and just like try and enjoy it and get a run on the board without getting the world record. I mean, like they saved like 30 something seconds on one of their splits, so I don't know how optimized it was, but they also like seemed to do a really good job. Like it was pretty clean. I'm sure it can be improved. It was actually the world record was 5 days ago. I just realized that now. So you're going to be in hot contention with the current runner of this. So maybe you can reach out to them.
Man, I'm
They're
not
from
I'm not
China,
ready to
though.
get accidentally bullied by being worse than someone.
Listen, they're from China. You're from the U.S. So you've got to win this for your country, for
It's all on the
America.
line. I have
And
to
then the
bring it
second
home.
is second place is Canadian. You got no. You gotta. Only Spiderweb is out there from America, trying to hold up the whole country on his own. You need to get in there.
So I got to get the U.S. record, not the world
Yeah,
record.
yeah. Get the U.S. world record.
No, the U.S.
So,
record, not the world
yeah,
record.
U.S. world record. That doesn't make any sense. So yeah, that's the game I chose for you. I hope you enjoy it. So we're gonna go ahead, take a couple of weeks off between this video and being current, and then we're gonna tell you about how we beat all the world records and we did the best job that anyone's ever done at speedrunning.
Bye. See ya.
So it's several weeks later. We have traveled into the future. Chad is recovering from having to listen to his own voice for like 30 minutes. He was very frustrated by it. He's a very contentious relationship with himself.
We
It's
stayed
quite
on the
fun.
call, and it probably wasn't in my best interest because John now understands how frustrated I get when I hear myself talk.
Yeah, he's not a big fan. But yeah, we're here. We learn these games. We experience them, and now we're gonna talk about them. I guess casually first, right?
Yes, we have
I don't know
experienced
where
some
we are
video
on this note
games.
sheet. I'm very lost.
We're in our
Right,
ratings now.
okay, I'm scrolling down the
So
ratings.
we're talking about our experience playing the game. So
Let
John,
me ask you this: is ratings the section in our notes that says ratings in big print on the top of it?
that is definitely a good place to jump to. If you want to use the
Okay.
outline, you can also click on the word ratings.
Okay.
So when I mentioned Pitfall, you specifically said that it's definitely not a game you would choose for yourself, but that you were kind of
Mhm.
interested. What was your experience like? The process of learning it.
It felt like the kind of game I wouldn't have chosen for myself. No, it was an interesting game. So I had a bit of a frustrating time, I will say, because I had a lot of technical issues with my save states. I haven't run a lot of Super Nintendo games, so I tried this new firmware that they came out with for SD2 SNES and was using that for a bit, but the game kept freezing at different points. Like I guess based off the sound, you knew more. You already knew about this issue. I don't know anything.
Yeah,
So
as a Super Nintendo speedrunner, you sort of get used to this kind of thing because the Super Nintendo did this really clever thing. So if you've ever played an NES game and it gets really laggy, you probably experienced the music also slowing down, which is kind of annoying. And so for the Super Nintendo, they got kind of creative and they decided that they would put all of the music on a separate sound coprocessor. So there's a whole separate chip that's only dealing with music. And so the whole way that the game interacts with that sound coprocessor is it just sends a message over to the chip saying, hey, it's time to play some music. And then it sends another message later saying, stop playing your music. And so if you make a save state with something like the Nakitech Game Saver or Furious's new firmware for the SD to SNES, you're basically interrupting that. So you're now loaded somewhere else while the sound coprocessor is continuing playing its music exactly like it was, and it gets some sort of message from the game saying, all right, it's time to play music. And it's like, I was already playing music. What are you talking about? And then it just crashes.
Yeah, so I got a lot of the crashing. So that really halted my learning of the game. The day I couldn't get into level 4, and there were 10 levels to learn. So, and then I got it switched over to the Naki Tech, and finally learned what music is and how the music can't be other music when it's music, and then the computers blow up. So, but as a game itself, it's a very interesting speed game and casual game. Like the controls are kind of enjoyable. Like I would say they're unique. It's got this kind of like a lot of momentum, and it's not like Prince of Persia, but it's got kind of that kind of exploration to it. And so that's cool. I was playing it on hard, which is really difficult. Like it's a lot harder than normal. It's a big step up. So a lot of the enemies take a lot of weird hits. A lot of the platforms have weird hitboxes. But ultimately, like you get to explore these levels. You can find a lot of hidden rooms and hidden areas that you can go into to get different items. So I think they did a really cool job of kind of combining like taking the Pitfall concept, moving it over to Super Nintendo, and then adding sort of like this spelunky Prince of Persia dungeon crawling looking kind of game. So the controls are like both enjoyable and frustrating at the same time. I don't know if that makes sense. And so ultimately my favorite part was probably just like getting used to the controls and utilizing the speed tech, because the momentum system and the platforming when you're able to pull it off feel really good. But the least favorite part was probably like all the game that was that. It's just a very punishing game, honestly. Like even for a casual experience, even if you're taking things slow, like your health doesn't refill in between levels. There's like a lot of enemies that are difficult to avoid. Like your weapon attacks don't necessarily, I don't know, like get you prepared for the angles, ways that enemies are attacking you. On hard, like the bosses take like 40, 50, 60 hits. Like it's just crazy how many hits some of these bosses take on so if you're doing it casually, I mean they can take 2-3 minutes straight of just wailing on this boss to kill him. So on hard, that stuff was pretty difficult, along with some very precise platforming. So it's very punishing platforming. If you fall from a platform, you will fall to your death, or you fall way back to the beginning of the level and have to redo it. And a lot of the platforms have like secretly slippery sections that'll make you slip off of it, or like you'll hit a slope. Like if you don't quite platform properly and you fall short, like it just often intentionally sends you down a slope or down something all the way back to where. So it's just a very frustrating experience to do casually for sure.
I remember this game as a kid. I this was one of the various games I had rented at one point or another, and it was definitely not a rental game. There's a lot of games out there that you can rent the game and you can play through a large percentage of it, but this was definitely one of those games that I can remember renting the game and playing maybe the first and maybe even getting to the second level, but not really getting past that, because it really takes a lot of investment and focus to try to make any real progress in this game. And as a kid, I just didn't have that. So
yeah, like you've got limited continues, you have a low amount of lives, your health doesn't refill in between levels. The health meter is kind of fun. So it's this alligator next to the Pitfall Man, and then as you take damage, the alligator's mouth starts opening and moving closer and closer to whatever Pitfall Man's name is at this point. And so
Stephen
that's kind of cool.
Pitfall.
Stephen Pitfall, Lord of the Pitfall Manor. But it is a cool game. I mean, the music's really good. The animations are really well done. Like, I guess that's maybe why I bring up Prince of Persia. Like, Prince of Persia, like the controls don't feel like Prince of Persia. So, like, I don't want to like because that's a very specific control set. But I'm just saying the number of animations in running and jumping and moving and whipping, like it's got an extensive amount of that animation, which is cool.
Prince of Persia is really famous for being maybe not the first one to ever do it, but at least the earliest and most prominent one to use rotoscoping, where it was actually a video of a person moving, and then they drew animations frame by frame off of a video. So it was really faithful to like the human form, which was unusual at the time. Everyone was drawing either cartoons or relatively stiff stick figures, and so this was like really based on the human form. And I think that's what you're describing, is that, you know, even though it's a very cartoony style of movement, it's also very fluid in a way that you would kind of expect to be somewhat realistic almost.
Yeah.
So I think that's a probably very apt
They just didn't
comparison.
design the game quite forgiving enough for how those controls work. Like the width of platforms, the way vines operate, where enemies are placed, like where traps are placed. There's a lot of traps or things that hit you from the background, fire and you know, lava or quicksand you can fall into. All that stuff is really designed to be pretty difficult. Even casually, like if you were to take it slow, but especially when you start trying to take it fast, because you can't just stay and kill some enemies and get those out of the way. So but the game definitely rewards you for exploration. There's hidden treasure and stuff like that. That's why it kind of reminds me a little bit of a spelunky or splunker kind of thing, where it's like you would probably casually try and find all these different gems things. They don't really reward you for those per se, but it feels like it's a bit more a point of the game to kind of get that stuff. Ultimately, I think this game does stand out just due to the way that it controls and moves in that way. The animation is really good, and if you play it for 5 minutes and you like it, then stick with it. If you don't, I would say don't. But I think it does stand out a bit due to that. But it is a challenging platform for sure. And we've been answering, were there any parts of the playthrough my progress was snag? Well, a lot of them for sure. Like a lot of parts. I mean, especially for the speed run, like trying to keep my health at a high enough level to go into the next level. There was some difficult parts. The first boss alone is incredibly difficult. It takes a ton of hits. I would say probably 30 to 40 hits to kill the first boss. And so figuring out how to do that quickly is really annoying, and I was taking a lot of damage. And so I realized beginning of the second level, like I'll just take a quick attention, get to refill my health. But like if you were trying to do world record level strats, that alone would have snagged me. But just platforming in almost every stage snagged me a bit, where I had to spend a good, 20 minutes on that stage grinding out that platforming until I got used to which spots on the platforms would make me slip off and which wouldn't. It's not all visually there. Like, I'm thinking specifically the end of level 2, there's a platform with like some moss, I guess, on the left side or something, and you doesn't present itself in some way where you'd say, okay, if I touch this moss, I'm gonna flip off the rock and fall halfway down the stage and have to redo it. But it does, and you might not even realize that's why you're slipping off. I didn't for a long time. So it's just a lot of those different things that there's some weird visual mess ups like that. There's one in the beginning of that level where there's a rock that you can't get to the edge of unless you jump over basically an invisible wall there, but you can walk back right past it. So it's like almost like a visual glitch. I don't know if why they designed it that way. It's just there's weird little things like that throughout the game that would make me say, nah, it could have been designed a little bit better for sure. But like the actual raw concept of the game is actually really good, I think. Like if you were to go back and kind of polish it up and make it a little bit more, you could make a really cool platformer with these physics and with this concept, and just cleaning up, the platforming and the hitboxes and all that stuff, I think.
Would you say that the really challenging platforming that you encountered was like speedrunning routes, or was it really designed in such a way that a lot of the platforming was unnecessarily challenging?
That's a good question. I didn't really sit down and casually play it a whole ton, so it's hard for me to answer that. I would say a lot of it's just challenging in general to do. Not. I mean, like for example, there's a lot of these sections that are very reminiscent of the Mega Man disappearing block sections, but they're platforms that pop out of the wall or go away. And so getting the timing for those is really important. If you miss those at any point, you fall all the way back down to the beginning, probably. That's frustrating. There's a lot of the platforming involved in the stages has fire shooting from the background or bats flying at you. And so it's almost, I mean, you could take it really slowly, but for the most part, I think it's designed to be done quickly. Like you'll notice if you do the platforming and make no mistakes, none of the fire gets to you until like way later. So like you can dodge most of it. So it feels almost designed around go fast through these sections. And there's just a lot of traps and pits and stuff. So I would say the platforming's not maybe necessarily that challenging, but the amount of damage you end up taking while you're trying to do it versus the amount of life that it allots you is not great. There's a lot of checkpoints, which is great, but also limited lives, limited continues and stuff. So to sit down and beat it, like if you get past level 5, there's actually a ton of continues that you can get and stuff. But if you die in the first couple levels, you're really not going to be able to. So a lot of people probably never got past like level 3 of this game.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
This game, definitely from the casual perspective, I think suffered in a lot of ways from. Um, you see it a lot in, I feel like, Amiga games, where it's this giant stage that you're meant to navigate, but it doesn't give you any clear indication of actually how to navigate it. You just kind of sort of wander around until you find some path you haven't seen before, which you can make the argument that, you're in a jungle and the jungle doesn't have signposts just telling you where to go. But at the same time, from a sort of game design perspective, you kind of want to guide the player in certain directions, and I don't feel like this game always does a great job of that. Sometimes there's situations where you have to jump off in some direction to find progress, or you have to, just take this one path or don't take this one path, and it's not very clearly indicated what's going to lead toward progress and what's going to either hit a roadblock or going to send you back or something.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the ways obstacles work in this game, I guess I should kind of articulate this better, are not things you find out until you take damage or die from them. So it's one of those games where once you've played it enough, like those sections are completely fair. But for a good example of that, I think it's level 6 is the first level that has alligators in it. So it's kind of a bit of an homage to the original Pitfall, where you would have to jump on the alligators' mouths and stuff. But you don't realize the timing. Like you'll jump on one and you'll see another one to your right, and so you'll be like, okay, I'll jump right over to this one, and it'll open its mouth while you're in the air. So it's like set up for the timing to be that you land on the first one, you think you can jump on the next one, and then its mouth opens, and you have to be aware of like taking the time to figure out, okay, and then there's other alligators that swim away. So now you've learned this pattern, you're waiting for their mouths to close, and then you wait for the next one to make sure that its mouth's not about to open and it swims away from you. So it's like it's just kind of trying to do stuff like that. There's a lot of the areas that have, like I said, fire shooting from the background, but also these giant like maces will swing and hit you and knock you way backward. And you might not know what order they come in or which way to dodge them until you kind of have to fail a lot. The game kind of really makes you fail to learn it, which is always a bit frustrating, right? Like I don't think there's a legitimate way to learn how to navigate through the levels without a lot of failure.
Right. Well, so I think the big question is, could you see yourself playing this again?
I'm not sure. I spent enough time learning to run it, and spoilers, didn't finish a run. I guess I'll end up on the reason why that happens at the end here, but I kind of want to maybe do it again. Like the platforming and all of the stuff. I see someone in chat asking, is it over animated, and that sometimes takes away control, which is a great question. I would say probably a bit, but really when you're executing well, it feels so fluid. It feels really good. It's one of those games. But when you're not executing well, it feels terrible. And I would like to maybe get a run done, but ultimately, like, this isn't a game I want to spend much more time with. One of the biggest reasons is the final boss, which I posted a YouTube clip, which I also linked. I added the frame saver, so you can probably find that on our Twitter feed. But the final boss, I mean, I hit it. You were watching me 80, 70 times, 80 times. I don't even know. I played it
a lot of times.
I got there in the speed run 18 minutes in, and I spent 15 straight minutes trying to beat the boss. Couldn't beat it and lost all my continues. And then I was like, okay, nope, I'm done. And I went on a little rage.
You did.
Which was fun. You can go watch that on the YouTube. But ultimately, the game's not balanced. That the boss is a lot of like if you weren't doing some of the speedrun tricks in some of the other levels, like it would be even more ridiculous. Like it would be even more hard to, I don't even know how I'd beat that, because you skip several bosses, you get to skip through a lot of difficult sections using some kind of clever sequence breaking and stuff. And so I don't know. I don't recommend this. I recommend, if you think for some reason you would like this game, play it for like 5 or 6 minutes, and then if you don't like it, then stop. Like I don't think it's one you have to push your way through. I think it has merits, and you might enjoy it, you might not. It's really one of those fence games. For me, I don't really want to spend a lot more time playing it, but I do kind of want to see the fruit of my work, I guess.
So in a more general sense, would you recommend this game to someone or not?
Yeah, like I said, I mean, I'm on the fence on that. It's really like a 50-50, so I would say play it for like 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, and if you've enjoyed those 10 minutes, like you don't
That's all you need to know.
absolutely hate stuff, then you'll be like, okay, this game's gonna work out for you. But if you're a normal person, you're probably gonna be like, no, I don't. I like enjoying my video games. So, but there's plenty of people like Chad out there who don't enjoy things and love being miserable. So you might be one of those people.
Well, speaking of loving being miserable, I was given Conquest of the Crystal Palace for
By
my
your good
card
friend
swap.
John Carls.
By my good, close, loving friend John Carls.
Yeah.
And it was a really interesting experience. This was actually a game that I was aware of previous. I had played it, I think, for a mystery tournament and had been on my list for a really long time. It's a very interesting looking game. So now, now's the time to put up or shut up. And I finally decided to take a crack at it, and it turned out to be considerably harder than I was expecting. So this is only...
You didn't decide to take a crack at it. I decided for you to take a crack.
Yeah, but I could have quit the podcast.
That's true. You could have just like fled the country. We never would have found it. You're like, I didn't have to do it.
Yeah, what if I had just like told you that my power was out for 3 weeks and there was no way that I could have possibly gotten it done?
Like, it's weird though, because you keep streaming and you're like posting a lot on Twitter, like a lot more than a normal person would post on Twitter. I'm seeing a lot of words.
Well, you know how it is. Sometimes when your power is out, you post on Twitter.
Yeah, and you stream. Yeah.
So this game actually ended up being pretty difficult to learn. We ran into this for Cart Swap number 2 when I was given the Smurfs, and I specifically had to fight myself on the urge to like obsess over understanding and perfecting strats. A lot of times my approach to games can be very meticulous in the sense that I will practice something over and over and over until I've perfected it. And that format wasn't going to work for the time crunch I was on. So I had to pull myself away from certain things, say, it's not a big deal if I don't get this perfectly. I can get a run done and then revisit it later if I want to. And so the first 2 levels of the game took me a little more than 3 hours to learn. And I was like, at this pace, like, it's going to be impossible to learn the whole game. And when I sat down for my second session, I just forced myself to push through. I said, I'm going to learn at the level that I'm capable of pulling off pretty quickly. I tried out some strats. I actually figured out some new strats, some new things I was pretty happy with. But for the most part, I would say this game is good. It's probably worth playing for most people. I don't necessarily think it would be the case that you would have to beat it, but I think that if you take your time and you really take a methodical approach to it, beating up enemies and getting money so that you can buy weapons and restoratives at the shops and lives and things like that, you can probably beat this casually, not too difficult. It's only 5 levels long. Some of the levels are fairly long, but what makes them difficult to play is a lot of the lag in this game. It can be really brutal. So if you're playing it casually, I don't think you would run into that as much as I did when I was trying to
kill those enemies. Yeah.
Right. Rather than trying to skip enemies or run past them, you'll probably turn around, slow down, and kill them, and then you won't have as much of a problem as I did. As far as my favorite part goes, I think that the combat in this game is really unique. There's a lot of things to really enjoy about the combat in this game. And my favorite thing is this really interesting mechanic that I'll talk about a little more in the speedrun, this backswing mechanic, where when you attack with your sword, you can actually turn and attack behind you at the same time, and that backswing that you do deals massive amounts of damage. It deals like 3 to 4 times more damage than a normal sword swing. And so the act of fighting bosses is trying to chain these backswings really quickly, and it makes combat really technical, which I appreciate. A lot of times with platformers like this, you're given a sword and boss fights
hit the buttons.
yeah, get in their face and press the button until dead. But that's not the case for this one. It's actually very technical. It's very calculated. You have to play this risk-reward strategy of how am I going to get myself into the right spot to be able to do this backswing at close range without getting myself killed. So it's got a lot of really interesting combat to it. But
what's interesting about just like doing this rating section for Cart Swap, we're kind of doing a new format, and I'm realizing it's tough because neither of us played these games casually, right? Like we were kind of on a time crunch and had to learn speedrun. So for me, I was having trouble kind of articulating the difference between am I reviewing this as a casual thing? Am I telling you my speedrun experience? But I think both of our games would probably be quite different if you casually played them, just in terms of slowing down enough to kill all these enemies. Like in Pitfall, I think if you were taking the time to grind and get extra lives and just like also just kill all these enemies in your way before you did the platforming, it's probably a pretty good game. It's probably fairly enjoyable, but as a speedrun, it's just so much more challenging because of that. And it seems like this game also has quite a bit of number of enemies, that are in your path that you're constantly dealing with on a speedrun perspective, especially with the lag and such.
Yeah, a lot of NES games out there, whenever there are a certain number of enemies on screen, they solve the problem by not putting more enemies on the screen, which can be really helpful for speedrunning because you can use that to sort of get things to not spawn in certain ways. That's very helpful for a lot of NES speedruns. But Conquest of the Crystal Palace really took a different approach, and I have to commend them for it. Rather than not spawning future things, they just went ahead and spawned them. They just let anything spawn everything. So if you want 20 enemies on the screen, you can get 20 enemies on the screen. You'll be able to take the time to really like get out a camera and take a picture of each frame on screen, but you can do it. So
that's nice. I'm glad they went ahead and went with a different approach there.
Yeah, so that was what my least favorite part was going to be, was the lag. It doesn't feel like it takes all that much to encounter a lot of lag in this game, and I feel like even if you're playing it casually, that would probably be the biggest killer for you, is figuring out how to manage the lag. It's a casual thing as well as a speedrun strat, is figuring out how
nothing's more annoying casually when you're as a speedrun, you expect it because you're kind of trying to push the limits of the game, so you're not killing a lot of stuff. But when you're encountering it in a casual game, it can be really annoying real quick.
Yeah, it's pretty tough. I think
so. In terms of the NES games, like, does this game have anything about it that makes it kind of stand out from the others?
Yeah, for sure. I think the combat being as unique as it is, for instance, I compare it to maybe like a Ninja Gaiden game. The pace is a little slower, but it's a ninja game with platforming, and then each level ends in a boss fight. So maybe it's a fair comparison. And I would say that whereas Ninja Gaiden is very focused on being really, really platforming heavy, which I would argue that this is not as platforming heavy. There's, some boxes to jump over. Sometimes you're climbing up platforms on a cliff or something like that. But for the most part, the platforming is not the hard part. This game really shines in the area of combat. There's your sword, which you can do the backswing, which I talked about, and then you also have a spell that you carry with you. And that spell can range from the most basic one that you get, which is just shooting a fireball, and that levels up as you collect more rosary beads, or at least that's what they look like, is rosary beads. They're almost certainly not a rosary. But the beads that you collect, they power up your shot. It really felt like Fester's Quest almost, where your first one that you pick up was just a straight shot, and then your second one was like this wave pattern, and then the third version was like it swirled around you, and then the fourth version was it went in a spiral outward. So like you could level it up to like whatever version of the shot that you wanted. Sure. But you can also go to, for instance, the merchant. There's this merchant girl that shows up several times in every level, and you can buy a number of different spells to use throughout the game. So you can use, a thunder spell or a quake spell or something like that, and so that really enhances the sort of combat you can deal with as well. Maybe a little more in depth, I think, than the sort of spells that you get in Ninja Gaiden.
Yeah, and you can also get your dog to attack all the stuff on the screen, right?
Yeah, so the dog mechanic is pretty interesting. You can summon your dog Zap at any time, and your dog will run around and will attack enemies on screen if it can get to them. But it also has a health bar that there is no way to restore the health in that health bar except for to buy an item from the merchant. And since you don't want to talk to the merchant because it takes forever in this game, that doesn't happen in the speedrun. So you have to be really, really careful with your dog's health. It doesn't restore between levels. It doesn't restore ever.
Is he a good doggo though, or?
He is. He tries his best, and one of my favorite things about this game is whenever you beat a boss, you have this like little victory dance you do. If your dog is out at the same time, he also does a victory dance, and it's a very good victory dance.
Is there a speedrun that utilizes like requiring that for every boss? Because it should, and I need that to happen right now.
I regret that it doesn't actually make you any faster, so there's no need to do it.
Yeah, you would need to do it on dog percent, where that's the rule in order to complete the speedrun, in which you, somebody who has moderating power on speedrun.com, could make happen very quickly.
I guess that's true. I guess I could make an awful category that I hate, but I probably
How
won't.
could you hate it? The dog would keep dancing.
I know, but I can make the dog dance in any percent too, so it's perfectly
Not
fine.
as much. Not as often.
So as far as parts that really gave me trouble in this game, the first few
Fine, move
levels,
on. Move on from my dog comments. Fine. Don't
the,
make dog percent.
the dog is a good boy, but the
Yeah,
dog.
where did your progress snag? I mean, you said learning the first couple levels was definitely a few hours for you, right? I mean, which I think we both kind of spent several hours on the first couple levels of our much longer game.
Yeah, the second level is intensely frustrating because there's pits all throughout the level, but this game does something sort of interesting. If you fall in a pit, you don't die. You go back to the beginning of the level with exactly the amount of health you have and exactly the amount of lives you had. So it just sort of punishes you by sending you back to the beginning. And the second level is just full of pits and things to knock you in pits. That's the theme of level 2. So it was very frustrating to learn, very, very difficult. If you look
It's
at
funny, Maru's mission does the same thing, and it's also where you fall in the pits and fly you back to the beginning.
it's not a good mechanic. I don't know if
Yeah,
someone
it's a
thought that it
mechanic
was a
that
good.
makes you very not happy as a speedrunner, I'll tell you that much.
I would rather die and get some sort of checkpoint where I have to redo 30 seconds than go back to the beginning of a 3 level or 3 minute level.
Yeah.
It really it's very frustrating. But I think all told, if you sort of are willing to deal with the fact that there's a few levels that can be frustrating, levels 2 and 3 in particular are not levels that I'm very fond of.
Mm-hmm.
It is only a 5 level game, so that's two-fifths of the game.
Maybe 60%, maybe 40%. I'm not a math scientist, but
Well, if you were, you would know that that is
10
2/5, which is 25%.
it's
And
10 to 19% of the game.
I mean,
No,
it's
but 40, not liking 40% of the game is pretty significant, I would
yeah,
say.
it's frustrating that there are levels like that are just really unfun to play, but I think that the good parts of the game make up for those unfun parts of the game. I would
For
say
difference, like my speed run's probably around the same time length as yours, but my game had 10 levels and yours has 5. So like the length of the levels that you had were considerably longer. So not liking 2 of them is basically like not liking, 4 or 5 of the levels in my game. So I mean, that's frustrating. But did you feel like after 2 and 3 like you liked 4 and 5 a lot and
yeah.
made you enjoy the rest of them a bit more, or
Yeah, I
like
think the
mechanics
last
and
two
stuff?
levels of the game were enough to sell me on this game. Like once I got past those and I got to levels 4 and 5, I was having enough fun that I was willing to tolerate my unhappiness with the first few levels of the game. And they're and all told, they're not actually terrible levels. The first and the third levels are frustrating to speedrun, but probably perfectly fine casually. Actually, the first level is kind of a cool level, but there's just a lot that goes into those levels because they're relatively long, and so as a speedrunner, you're trying to find ways to save time over a very long level any way you can. So it's a lot of damage boosting, but if you're damage boosting through a level that long, then you're having to do really severe health management. You know, if you watch the world record is damage boosting off of everything and ending every level with like 1 hit point left. And
Yeah.
if you go into a game trying to learn it that way, it can be very frustrating. And
So
in my
is
brilliance,
the damage boosting what made levels 2 and 3 so frustrating, or?
I would say largely yes, because in level 3 specifically, in level 3, you're mostly trying to push on as fast as possible to despawn enemies behind you. And so a lot of times you're damage boosting off of enemies and you're pushing yourself like through big waves of enemies just to get past it all. Whereas if you were playing it casually, it wouldn't take much to just kill the enemies and then progress onward. But
Yeah.
that's not the fastest option, so.
So do you think you will continue playing it? I mean, it was on your list before you did this, and so you were pretty relieved when I picked it for you, not thinking it was going to be this hard. So what do you think going forward?
Yeah, I think if I took the time to relearn some of those earlier levels I was having a problem with, I think that this game would become a lot more fun. So I think I probably will give it some more attention. But I will say that I was expecting to have more fun with it. And the only thing that I didn't have fun with was just the giant challenge that it posed. But if that's the worst thing about a game is that it's very difficult to, that's not really a bad thing.
Sure. Do you think that you would recommend it for someone else to play? Like if they're like to want to play it casually instead of as a speed. I think you would definitely recommend it as a speed run, but casually, what would you do?
For sure. I think if you're willing to take your time in the second level specifically, I would say that's the most frustrating of them. I would say that the payoff for finishing the game is absolutely worth it. So I would say yes, I would recommend it to someone. I would say that if you are really prone to getting uh, allowing some amount of frustration ruin an experience for you, then you may not end up enjoying it. But I think for most people who are willing to work through something and get the payoff at the end, I think that this game is worth it. I don't think playing it casually would take all that long either. I think that casually you could probably beat this game in 3 hours, 4 hours.
Sure. And the music's kind of bumping too.
The music bops. Can I just say that? It's a real Bob Dylan original.
I didn't get to say that either, but the music in Pitfall also really good and nice and catchy. So Conquest, though, I think a little bit better. It had some good.
Yeah, I was pulling music from Pitfall for this episode and was a little bit surprised at how similar all the tracks are.
Yeah,
they're all great.
There's a lot of drums. There's a lot of like tribal drumming going on.
I think there was something they were going for. I think the idea they were going for was that as you sort of progress deeper and deeper into the jungle, that the music sort of evolves. But if you listen to it all side by side, you're like, wow, these are all pretty much the same track. So
yeah, I think they were going for tribal drums, and then they hit it. Tribal drums in it. So I think that's probably what they were.
Yeah.
They probably at meeting. They're like, you know what would be good? Tribal. And then what about the next track? They're like, well, tribal drums worked the first time. That's how these things happen. So, well, we both, enjoyed our games to extents. They both have frustrating parts. They both have fun parts. But you will have to decide yourselves if you decide to take our recommendations or not and play these. But hopefully you will. If you do, tweet at us. Let us know what you think. And also, let us know if you ever speedrun one of these. It's always fun to hear about people picking up speedruns because of the podcast. We're going to go ahead and take a quick break, and we're going to actually talk a little bit more in depth about the tech that goes into these runs. So each week we like to go ahead and dive into the speedruns about the game we're talking about, or games. And so starting off with Pitfall: The Mayan Adventure, we're just going to go through a little bit of the history of it and then talk about some of the tech and interesting things that go into it a bit more in detail, since we kind of just talked about our experience learning the runs. There's a lot of cool stuff in this run. This game is a world record of 10 minutes, 49 seconds by LaHulk. If you don't know who he is, go check out his speedrun.com profile. He has run a lot of Super Nintendo games at a very high level, and he's one of those like Mount Rushmore level kind of speedrunners out there. So go check him out. There's also a 17:16 time by JPin88. That's the only other time on the board. Interestingly enough, that's on the Genesis, and it's on normal, and LaHulk's is on Super Nintendo and on hard. But I guess they figured we only have two people. We're not going to make two leaderboards for this game. So kind of different speedruns altogether. It was actually at AGDQ 2017, just this past year. LaHulk was able to do an any percent run, and he got a 10:59, which is kind of crazy. I mean, that's 10 seconds off of his world record. So,
I mean, if you know how optimized LaHulk's world records are, 10 seconds off of a LaHulk optimized world record is just absolutely absurd.
This world record's loosey goosey for 6 seconds with his PB, so like it wasn't one of these 0.1, 0.2 like splits kind of one, but still like very optimized. He put a lot of time into this run. I think that was my biggest takeaway from this whole experience, was kind of this respect for LaHulk, just in the fact that he put so much work and time into optimizing this game without any competition, behind him. I think it's really hard for me when I route a new game. I generally try and get a time that I'm satisfied with. But without somebody kind of pushing you from behind or nipping at your heels, it's hard to know where that cutoff is, right? Like if you're the only one running a game, it's kind of hard to be like, well, do I want to save those 5 seconds, those 15 seconds? I've already got a pretty solid run together, but he really clearly took the time to put in the work, and it's really impressive. So this game is very movement heavy. I mean, it's a very fast paced kind of action based speed run, which I think is why I enjoyed it a bit. I think ultimately the movement feels really good when you're speed running it, especially like jumping between vines, keeping your momentum going, not slowing down to jump on platforms. All feels very fluid if you once you learn it and you get good at it. And there's a lot of little optimizations within that movement tech that add up over the course of the run. For example, there's some unintended rolling that that Hulk does in the run that I learned a little bit of it. The game doesn't have a roll button. It doesn't have a roll mechanic. If you pull up the manual, which I did when I watched Hulk's world record, there's no tutorial or anything. I saw him rolling off of this platform, which allowed him to dodge grabbing a vine on accident and kind of maintain a little bit of speed and get to the section. But there was no roll button when I looked in the Genesis. But if you duck down, like right before the edge of a platform, it will roll you off that platform. So it's like again, there's a lot of animations to this game and a lot of different little visual movements and stuff. And so you're able to use this to keep some momentum going. It is a little bit faster than just falling off of something, and it's also puts you at a small hitbox. So like if there's a vine or an enemy in the way, you can kind of roll underneath it. And so that's used at a bunch of different points in the run. There's also a really cool mechanic if you watch Hulk's world record of there's a lot of vines in this game, as you'd expect from a Pitfall game. But instead of just climbing straight up the vine, he'll jump off of it and grab it again at a higher point and kind of jump his way up it. And this is really impressive for this game, because if you go and just play this game and try it, you're not going to do it. I decided to just not try and do it because it's the way the hitboxes work with the vines. Like, he won't grab it unless you do that jump off in a very specific way. Like, it's not like if you think of SMB2, for example, it's very easy to jump off a vine and back onto a vine and re-grab it. Anytime your sprite crosses the vine, it'll let you re-grab it. Pitfall does not work that way. Like, you have to like really have your animation in the right spot for it to let you to re-grab. And these save a very small amount of time, but it adds up. Especially there's a very large vine in level 2 that probably takes a good 15 seconds to climb up normally, and probably takes Hulk like 5 seconds to climb up or his way, or 7 seconds. I mean, it saves a considerable amount of time throughout the run, but it's very difficult to pull off. So I'd be interested. I'm gonna ask him some questions about this game at GDQ, because again, no tutorial or anything like that. So I'd love to sit down with him and find out exactly how he's made that so consistent. Outside of just the normal movement tech, there's actually a couple of glitches in this game, which is cool. There's a really big skip in level 4, and I have no idea how it happens. I tried a bunch of times to do it. It didn't happen. But essentially, Hulk is climbing up. This is like a Mayan kind of ruins level, and he's climbing up these platforms on the walls, and then there's this giant pillar that kind of separates you from the next section over to the right, and you're supposed to traverse your way through these ruins, and you'll eventually come back outside, on the other side of that pillar and all this stuff. But he jumps at the pillar at a specific height, I don't know, and whips at the same time. I don't know if it has to do with the fact that he takes some intentional damage before that or what he's doing, but he clips right through the pillar and skips like a good, I don't know, 45 seconds, minute to maybe more than that, probably over a minute of the level doing that. I couldn't replicate it. It was really cool. There's also another one of these clips in level 5, which I was able to pull off, not at the same speed as him, but there's a section in level 5 where you can get on the ground and crawl. That's how you're able to do this rolling mechanic. That's if you do that on the edge of a platform, it'll make you roll off of it. And so, but the game actually has places where you're supposed to crawl around, like small little entrances that you can go under walls,
little tunnels and things.
Yeah, little tunnels, thanks, and stuff like that. But there's this one place where you can get duck down and crawl into this space that's like inside the wall, and you're kind of just stuck there. But if I just hit enough buttons, that was my strategy, was hit enough buttons till I fell down through the floor. I'm sure the Hulk gets in there and he's like out real quick. but it'll let you fall through the floor and also skip a large section of the level, which is really cool.
I'm sure there's a science to it, but why science when you can just hit
Yeah.
buttons?
I mean, it's clear that your sprite is like trying to stand up there and like it doesn't know what to do with it and it pushes it down the bottom, but I don't know how the Hulk triggers it so quickly. I don't know if he just got really good luck in his run or if he has a way of consistently doing it that quickly. Sometimes I would get it quicker than others, but that's a skip. There's also a number of different boss skips, which is really cool. Several of the bosses are these leopards. I think they're leopards. There's a lot of cats. There's a lot of giant cats in the jungle world.
I mean,
There's panthers.
who are you gonna make as enemies? Otherwise, it's like
Yeah, well, I mean, there's panthers, there's lions, there's jaguars, there's leopards. There's too
not,
many of them. I don't know what these all are.
I'm no history buff, but I think the Mayans don't exist anymore, so you can't just make Mayans the bad guys, right?
Oh, okay. Well, that seems fair. The rest of the game fits in modern.
Are the Mayans extinct?
They're not doing well.
They're
not trading on the New York Stock Exchange. I'll tell you that much.
They're on life support.
Yeah. But the first boss, for example, like I said, that guy takes like 40 hits with the sling rocks that you can throw at him, where you can use. Luckily, in the speed run, you can pick up some items that make it a little faster. But as you progress through the game, there's two different sections where the boss is like two of those guys, and they're really difficult to hit because they're very fast. They knock you over a lot. They're incredibly ridiculous fights casually, and trying to do it as quickly as possible with taking damage is kind of absurd. And so it's really nice that the speedrun allows you to skip not one but two of these boss fights with multiple of these, I'm assuming, leopards. And essentially the way it works is just if you jump far enough for the first one, level 4, which is the one that already has the big clip, you can get a chili, which is an item that makes you jump further and jump higher. And if you jump far enough, you can skip the trigger point for the boss, and then you can just jump back up through the door and leave. So the trigger point is on the ground, so you have to land on the ground to trigger it. Same with the one in level 9. You can actually jump off of a platform for that one and just land far enough that you never trigger the fight. And so if you land a little bit short, you'll get the get ready or whatever screen will come up, and you have to do the fight, which is a pain in the butt. So those are really cool, and at least the boss skips are really easy to learn. The level 5 clip is really easy to learn, so that's cool. And outside of that, that's most of the speedrun. It's a lot of really precise memorization of platforming. It's a lot of the standard, how much damage can I take, how much do I stop and get health, do I stop to kill this enemy, because your health is limited. And the final boss is incredibly difficult. Again, I don't know how to kill the final boss. There's these rocks that you can throw that explode that you use on the leopard in the first level, and you use 3 of them on him, and I think only have to hit him like 10 times then, or some sort of still ridiculous amount. And it seems like the Hulk maybe has like 8 to 10 of those on the final boss, so that's why he's able to kill him quickly. But if you were to not have those, then it wouldn't even be a speeder. I mean, it would have to take 3-4 minutes to kill this boss, so that's a pain. But it seems like the Hulk has routed it very well in order to pick up these items enough, and he doesn't die, so he doesn't lose the items, which is the key part, because if you game over, you do not have them anymore. But yeah, the game is really just a lot of precise platforming and memorization of these rooms and knowing where the traps are, and it really does start to feel fluid, and it's definitely at least worth watching Hulk's video of, for sure. If you like high action platforming and impressive stuff, you can tell pretty clearly how difficult the stuff is he's pulling off. I definitely recommend it.
For sure.
But yeah, what about Crystal Palace? That's a speed game I've watched a little bit of from our dude Spiderweb, and you're promising world record coming up. What's the history of that game?
Yeah, so currently the world record. So there's 2 leaderboards on speedrun.com. There's the US version leaderboard and the Japanese version leaderboard, but it seems like everyone runs on the US version no matter what. So I'll only be talking about the US version. I don't even know what the differences are between the versions, but I know everyone runs on the US version. The current world record...
My game too, like there's like a million versions. Very unclear on the leaderboard because so few people have run it. Why? Like, I don't know what the difference between the Genesis and the Super Nintendo and the, hard normal. So,
well, at least they're not running on the PAL version. That would suck the
Yeah.
most. So the world record for Conquest of the Crystal Palace is a 1220 by Sol JY, who is a
For
Chinese
now.
speedrunner. We don't actually see a lot of Chinese speedrunners. Their
No.
interaction with the Western speedrunning community is very limited for some relatively obvious reasons. But outside of that, the other runs on the leaderboard are a 1254 by Dagron, who is another really fantastic speedrunner. And you were just mentioning Spiderweb, who has a 1413 on the leaderboard currently. There's some other runs. My run that I put together didn't even beat the lowest time on the leaderboard. The lowest time on the leaderboard was a 16 something. I got an 18 something as my first run. I was pretty happy with it for a first run, but I intend to do a little more with it. But what I really want to focus on is the tech in this game. So the biggest and most obvious piece of tech in this game is the amount of lag reduction and damage boosting that is done. That's fairly standard for a platformer that has a health bar. As soon as you give a health bar, you'll see people starting to just skip things wherever possible. Damage boosting off of enemies, especially if it gives you any sort of beneficial knockback, which it does in this game. You can actually get a nice knockback off of enemies and use that to push you forward a little bit. And if you leave the game up to its own devices, it's pretty much going to fill every single sprite slot it has, which it turns out is a lot of sprite slots, and it really makes the game run slow. So a lot of this game is about trying to find ways to mitigate that lag, whether that be take the small amount of time it takes to attack enemies in front of you, or summon your dog to run around behind you cleaning up after you, which he will do.
Would you say that this game has more sprite slots than a soda machine?
Oh, okay, that's good. You should
Okay,
have just
thanks.
you should have just dropped that one organically. You set it up, but that was actually a good one. You could have run with that. I wouldn't have
Yeah,
said
I
anything.
know. I should have held on to it. I should, but I didn't know when it would come up again.
You're
I'll do
right.
what I
No,
can.
you're absolutely right. So, just a few interesting little bits of tech throughout the game. So, when you start the game off, as we talked about before, you get to pick from 3 crystals that decide how much power you have, what your sort of powers are. And there's a red crystal which gives you additional life, so you have a larger life bar. There's a blue crystal, I think it is, green crystal. The magic crystal allows your magic to last longer. And then there's the flight crystal. I don't remember. I guess that's the blue one. And the flight crystal gives you a higher jump, which is actually the one that's chosen for the speedrun. As beneficial as having a larger health meter would be, there's a lot of levels where you find yourself climbing, especially in the first level where you're climbing up basically the face of a cliff. You can skip a lot of platforming by jumping much higher than you're otherwise supposed to be able to. So you can, if you want to call it a sequence break, it's not really even a sequence break because you're just taking advantage of a bit power up that the game gives you to jump up platforms really efficiently. But that's what you use for the speedrun. So you have a much higher jump. It allows you to often completely avoid encounters and enemies by just jumping over them entirely. You can jump up platforms much more efficiently than you otherwise might be able to. And the speedrun actually plays on this a little bit. So if the flight crystal doesn't give you quite enough to make the jump that you want to be able to make, you can actually also summon the dog in, because in addition to being an extremely good boy and attacking enemies on screen, one of his other powers is that you can actually jump on his back and jump off of him as a little footstool. And
He
so
creates an additional platform for you. So now you got the jump upgrade and you got your doggo. You're just jumping all over the place.
I will say that he's extremely hard to predict, just his movement. He's not moving based on anything that's at least obvious. It doesn't seem like he just moves the direction you're facing or anything like that. It seems like he makes some of his own decisions based on if he's gonna like jump off of a ledge, he's gonna try to make sure he's able to land on something. If there's an enemy on screen, he's gonna prioritize attacking the enemy. If there's no enemies on screen but there's like coins or other power-ups he could pick up, he's gonna prioritize grabbing those for
He
you.
can pick up pickups for you too.
He can.
Oh, he's
So
a good boy.
yeah, he is an extremely good boy. Very, very thrifty as well.
14 out of 10, would you say?
Yeah, I would pet. Um, but there's some situations where you can use that to jump up in ways that you're not supposed to be able to. So, without getting too technical, there's these situations where the game will sort of build stairs for you, and it doesn't want you to be able to walk through the stairs, so there'll be like a hard wall against the side that you're not able to walk against. and if you come up from underneath, the game will actually let you jump through them. So you can actually sort of like jump through the geometry a little bit and use walls almost like they're floors to climb up, or ladders like you can climb up if you can jump underneath them, because the game didn't really expect you to be able to reach them very easily. So getting to them sort of gives you an easy way to jump up walls and things like that in a few places. Besides that, I think the two other things that I really wanted to highlight is the combat. So the backswing mechanic that I mentioned earlier is absolutely fantastic in that it makes the fights really technical, but the trade-off is that it makes the fights really technical, and so sometimes it can be very hard to do them effectively. So it's this mechanic where if you stab your sword in the direction you're facing, if you continue to hold the sword button and very quickly tap the direction you're not facing, you will also swing in that direction, and the backswing that you do does considerably more damage, something like 3 to 4 times the amount
This
of...
is intended, I assume.
Yeah, it's a normal intended mechanic. You hear a sound effect. It makes like this swing sound effect when you get it correctly, and it does a lot of damage. The second boss of the game takes a ton of hits just to get him to progress through his phases, but you can kill him in like 6 backswings. So it can be really, really effective against bosses, and that's really where you see it the most. There's a few enemies throughout the game that would take more than 1 hit to kill, and so you might backswing them just to get them to kill them more quickly. But most of the time, the backswing is most effective against bosses, and especially the final boss of the game. He's only vulnerable for very short periods of time when he opens his mouth, and so getting those backswings in with the perfect timing so that you can hit him during his vulnerability is crucial. You can actually have enough time to get 2 backswings in really quickly, and that's one place where the world record loses a little bit of time, is it doesn't nail the double backswing every single cycle. So it's possible to save a little bit of time that way.
That's really cool, because a lot of these kind of games, like you said, are just kind of slash the sword and just mash the B button. So to add like a little bit of technical execution to the combat is a really nice touch, similar to like Zelda 2, which adds a significant amount of actual tech to your combat. And there's plenty of games like Zelda 2 graphically and kind of combat wise like that are just you stick out your sword and you hit something or you don't, but like to add like a little bit of depth to that can go a really far way, even a small thing like that.
Yeah, it can be tough to execute the boss fights as effectively as you would want to, especially considering most of the bosses are extremely large on the screen, and their vulnerable positions are probably high up on their body. So for instance, the second boss, his head is very high up off the ground. So getting that backswing in midair is extremely challenging. And in addition to that, there are platforms throughout the room, but he destroys them sometimes. So it's really sort of a toss-up whether or not you can do things quickly. This game does have a fairly significant RNG component. The levels go the same way every single time, but a few of the bosses have some randomness built into them that you have to take into account. The final boss, the way he drops blocks on your head, that's random. The second boss, where he spawns on screen and his movement is random. So if randomness like that can affect your time in the game matters a lot to you, that may be something you want to take into account before you tackle this game. But the bosses are really interesting. They're all very different. The first boss is you're fighting 2 guys. One guy's on the ground and one guy's flying around the room. And if the guy on the ground gets enraged, he will shoot a lightning bolt at the guy at the top, and the top guy will send the lightning bolt down to the ground. And so, like, figuring out how to play around in the room while still getting your hits in can be extremely challenging. The second boss is this giant boss that just jumps around and blows wind. He's a huge wall for getting a good run put together. It can be very random. The third and
Us
fourth...
in this podcast love anything that blows wind for a long period of time, because that's what we do every episode.
That's true. A lot of hot air. The third and fourth bosses are pretty much the same, just like this orb that flies around on screen, and then there's the final boss. So there is some variety to it. The game is relatively short, though. And that's pretty much speedrunning Conquest of the Crystal Palace. It's a lot of health management and lag reduction through the levels, and then cool boss fights.
And this has not been at a GDQ yet. Yet, my dude.
But
I don't think it's been in any marathon that I'm aware of.
But you, the listener, could change that. So,
or as the co-host.
Me?
Even. Yeah.
I'm not very good at the game.
Yeah, that could get in the way, I guess.
Yeah.
But those are the speed runs. I mean, I think ultimately both runs have a lot of merit and are interesting in their own right. Definitely recommend checking out these runs from Soul JY and Lahol, also from Dagron, who we talked about in a previous episode as well, and some speed games, putting up some good times in Rystar, was it?
I think Dagron is the Rystar world record holder, and he also did Adventures in the Magic Kingdom, which was your no.
Name's been popping up lately, Dagron.
What a
It's
name!
hot name.
What a
Yeah.
guy!
So definitely check these runs out. They're really cool. Check out Lahulk's GDQ run and the like. We're gonna go ahead and take a quick break, and then we're gonna answer some of your live Q&A.
So this week, as with every week, we like to answer some of your questions. Some of you were very generous and spent some time coming up with some good questions on our Discord server, which is honestly very impressive that people asked some good questions of us on our Discord server, because our Discord had no idea what the games were. So we told them we were doing a cart swap episode, and they still managed to give us a few really solid questions for our cart swap episode. And as we mentioned before,
best listeners on the podcast internet world. That's what I think.
The podcastosphere.
Yeah.
Like we mentioned before, that we're going to try to really pare down. So we've got just a handful of questions this time. We pulled the 3 best ones from our Discord server, and we've got one from our live Q&A here on the channel. So we're really paring down. So make sure you hit us with your absolute best questions, and we'll try to pick the ones we like the most so that we can keep the Q&A really tight and clean. Our first question is from Discord, and Space Cow asks, what goes into deciding what carts you give to each other? I think this is something we've talked about a little bit before, but I think it's sort of an interesting discussion to have.
Yeah, shout outs to Space Cow, who has helped us many times with our Q&A live on the channel, so thanks for him helping us out. This is a tough question because I think what makes it so hard to pick a speedrun for another person isn't just like knowing what the other person likes, but also that we don't know all of the things that are going to could be frustrating that will emerge when the speed run is done. Like a run can look like it's a pretty cool, interesting game that would fit, the personality and tastes of the other person. But once you dive into it, you don't realize, oh, it's got this one really difficult mechanic, or, oh, this section's hard. I know Chad likes a lot of platformers. I think both of us are much more platform centric, speedrunners than anything else. So I like to try and tend towards that. But in terms of finding the right fit game wise, I don't know. It's tough. I don't. What do you do?
Yeah, I think that there's a conversation to be had here about how our perception of speedruns is definitely as a finished product rather than as a path to get there. Because just like you said, you look at a speedrun and it might look cool, but you don't know what goes into actually producing that speedrun. All you see is the finished product. And I think you're absolutely right. I think that's the big issue with it, is that I think, as far as me and John are concerned, I don't think that there's very many speedrunners out there that know the other person's taste as well as the two of us do.
Yeah.
We've talked about so many
We're
games.
We're still terrible at picking each other games.
But that's the thing, is that I have at least tried to shy away from picking games that I want to run and more try to focus on games I think John would be interested in running. But even then, you just never know. I
would say it's hard for me to pick speed games for myself. Like,
Yeah.
even picking games that I'll start speed running something and I'll be like, oh, this is terrible, I don't like it. But when you're doing an episode around it, you're stuck, right? So like,
Right.
I run into that all the time, just picking games for myself. You picking a game like Adventures in the Magic Kingdom, if you watch the speed run, you're not going to realize from watching the speed run, oh, you need to memorize 50 trivia questions about Disney, because you're not going to get the same ones every time you do a speed run. You need to know the answers to all these questions. Like, there's these little things, these details that come up as you start learning a run that just aren't apparent, to somebody watching the finished product. And so it can be really difficult. I mean, Chad's picked me some Game Boy games, which, well, I guess just one Game Boy game up to this point, which has been my favorite one that we've done so far. I love Game Boy games. I picked him a PS1 platformer because I know he likes broken PS1 platformers, and that one worked. But every once in a while we'll pick another game for each other, and it just doesn't click with the person. It's really difficult.
Yeah, we try to talk to the other person about what they're looking for at the time, because I mean everyone's taste and what they're in the mood for changes. So for instance, for this one I asked John and he said, well, I don't speedrun very much Super Nintendo stuff, so I knew that he was looking for something Super Nintendo, and I know that Super Nintendo can vary wildly for the amount of time that a run takes, so I tried to pick something that was extremely short for the world record, so that even if he didn't get to world record caliber, it was still attainable. So I tried to pick something that was roughly 10 minutes. And then for this, because we're on such a time crunch, we record the giving of the games usually either 2 or 3 weeks in advance, and then we have to do an episode in 3 weeks. So that's the amount of time we get.
In the past we've done it like 6 weeks in advance. This time we were time crunched to 2 or 3 weeks, so that kind of made it harder for us. We both picked shorter games. Last time, I gave you a pretty long game. I gave you that Aladdin game, which was almost an hour long. Right. No way you would have done that in 2 to 3 weeks, right? So we knew, hey, we only have a couple weeks. We want to release this as a Christmas themed episode, giving each other gifts. What's going to be under 15 minutes, 20 minutes? We really didn't want to, burden the person by saying, hey, you need to learn a 45-minute speedrun in 2 weeks, because that's a good way to get people angry at you.
We've also mentioned before that the goal of Cart Swap is to bring attention to speed games that maybe haven't had as much attention given to them, either games that haven't been run at all or haven't been run frequently. And so there is a definite balance we have to strike. You don't want to give a game that has no information about it, because going from the ground floor, unless you're really in the mood for that, can be really challenging. And if it's not something you're passionate about, going from the ground floor is miserable. But we also don't want to pick something that's really just known really, really well. There's a lot of tutorials and a lot of information about it. So, picking a game that I knew LaHulk had run was an easy pick for me, because I knew that it would at least have a really solid, well put together run that's been routed thoroughly. So
yeah, and I knew Chad likes NES and also had a list of games that he's been considering speedrunning, and this was a game that I actually pulled off of Toad's short speedruns list. He has this a list of, here's speedruns on the NES under 10 minutes. Here's ones between 10 and 15, 15, 20, 20, 30. So you can kind of find the kind of run you're looking for. It's also, the other thing that makes it tough is we've recorded, we're getting close to 150 episodes at this point, counting pockets. So there may be interesting games I've covered in the past in a pocket or something else that I haven't speedrun myself, but I like. And I can't give that to you now because we're not going to do an episode on it, right? So, like, I can't give you something like Friday the 13th on NES or something that I would love to see you speedrun, because it's like, well, we need new content. So it really does make things tough. But we've done our best, and, we've had a couple successes, I think, just in terms of, I think our last one was definitely the best. We both got world record. We both enjoyed the games a lot. This time we both ran into a lot of challenges. Other times we had mixed results, and we'll keep doing them. I think you all like these episodes, and we do enjoy doing it. It stretches us, and sometimes it's frustrating. We like to be in our comfort zones, so
it's good for us.
Yeah, Liz asks, after doing this 3 times, which now is 4, right? Which is better, choosing games you love or choosing games you think your partner will love?
Yeah, I think that was our big mistake for Cart Swap 1, is we both gave the other person a game we thought we would enjoy and that we wanted to see the other person play, and we realized that it wasn't that entertaining watching the other person be miserable playing a game.
You wouldn't have liked my game if you played it. You just don't even know. Super Robin Hood.
Robin Hood.
You go play that right now. Let's see.
I think you would have found Cosmo Tank kind of boring too, so
yeah, exactly. I mean, I think it's, I don't completely get the question. Like, do I like picking speedruns that I love for me more than I love? Like, is this like the gift question? Like, is it better to give or receive, or like?
I imagine the question is, do you feel like ultimately you take more joy in giving the other person a game you want to watch them watch, or watch them run, or do you take more joy in giving them a game that they actually just enjoy?
I mean, definitely more would rather watch you play something you enjoy, for sure. I mean, just because I like you as a human being, so I like to be nice to you. But I liked watching you play Cosmo Tank, too, because I love Cosmo Tank. So, and you probably didn't like playing it as much as I liked watching it. So, But ultimately, I mean, my goal is to pick something that you love, and it's fun. It's fun to get somebody, you know, pick a speed run and then you end up liking speed run and you wouldn't have done the speed run. You know, there's probably no way you would have picked that Aladdin game anytime soon, right? You hadn't even heard of it, and you have such a list of games that you're looking to get anyway to run anyway. So that was kind of fun to watch you kind of go from like he kind of hates it and then like have it grow on you and then have you pull off a good time and enjoy it. That's a lot of fun. So I would rather, you know, it be something you enjoy.
I took unique pleasure in watching you be miserable during Super Robin Hood, so
yeah.
Well,
it's also a really difficult question because like I don't really watch runs that are just the kind of stuff I would enjoy either. Like I enjoy watching stuff that you run. I just would never run it. So like broken 3D platformers, I like watching you run Bubsy 3D and Darkened Sky and Aladdin. So for me, the two aren't very different, I guess. Like the things I love to watch you play are the things you like playing. That's why I watch your stream, right?
Sure.
So, but
that makes sense. My favorite was definitely watching you play Zen Intergalactic Ninja because you really got into it, and so I think my answer is the same as yours. Is I think that there's a lot of joy in there's a lot of joy in giving someone a Christmas gift when they say, "Oh my God, I really love this," versus
But there's a specific type of feeling that I guess nobody else probably on Earth has felt but me or you, which is watching someone speedrun something that you're making them speedrun and they don't like it. Like you feel real bad about
it.
You know what I mean? You're just like, oh, I thought you'd like it. But like when you give someone a present and you thought they'd like it and they don't like it, they don't have to spend like 15 to 20 hours of their life engaging with that present and then talk about it for 2 hours. So it's like,
well, I mean, it's the same thing as console challenges. You give someone a game because you think they're going to enjoy it, and then they're playing.
Different because they're okay. The reason that's different is that person has chosen to do the console challenge, so they've already said this 700 games. Like I'm going to beat all of. I want to beat all of them at some point. I've picked these games, so like you're picking a game, sure, but like it's not like I picked a speedrun out of a list of yours, right? Like I picked a game out of left field. So if if you didn't like Aladdin, Nasira's Revenge or whatever, like you were never going to have to play that game. A console challenge, like if you're truly going to do a console challenge, you'll have to play it eventually. You're just choosing when they play it.
So you're saying it's like if I were to give someone the gift of a DVD copy of Biodome with Pauly Shore and then force them to sit down and watch it with me 6 times?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like if you were to go to my console challenge and make me play Space Ace on the SNES, even though like I'm not doing a SNES challenge. Like that's like when I watch you start a speedrun and you don't like it and you're frustrated, I'm like, I feel bad. Like I'm like, I know he's frustrated and he's like gonna like feel like he has to put more time into this, and then he's gonna, I know you well enough. I'm like, and then he's gonna get competitive about it, and then he's gonna want his time to be better, and then he's gonna spend even more time on it, and it's
well, if it makes you feel better, I didn't end up hating Conquest of the Crystal Palace.
Good.
So
that's good. That makes me feel good.
Yeah.
So BD Weasel asks, if you were going to do a crossover cart swap episode with any of the Warp World crew, who would you trust to pick a good game, and who would definitely troll you? Just shout outs real quick to our friends at the Warp World Podcast. We are part of the Warp World Podcast Network. You can find them at podcast.warp.world. They've got the normal Warp World podcast, which is like a Twitch news, speedrunning news podcast. They've got Warp World Historians, which is a kind of similar to ours, but it's definitely more focused on just the history part, nothing with speedrunning. And then and they also have very different tastes in games than us, so they've got like a whole different catalog of games they've gone through. Like I don't know how much overlap there is, but it's been very little for the fact that they've done like 30 games. And I think Super Mario 64 might be the only overlap between the two. So
yeah, Super Mario 64 and Super Mario World. They've done a lot of Mario games.
Yeah.
So any of the Mario games we've crossed over, like Mario Brothers 3 maybe, but
but
outside the Mario games
stuff.
Outside the Mario games they've done a lot. Right.
And they've got I Got One, which is a business ideas thing. It's a new one that Jacko's been doing. I haven't gotten to check that out yet. I don't think it's moved over to Stitcher, but once it does, I'm gonna check that out.
So I think this one's
so
I think that's
go check them out.
I think there's a right answer to this question. I don't think that this is like an opinion. I think there's a right answer.
Well, Jacko's gonna troll you.
Exactly. It's Jacko 100%. Not even a question.
Gonna program a game for you to speedrun like Moonmaster 2.0, and it's gonna involve, oh, you have to drink 3 gallons of water between these 2 levels, and like now you have to like know how to code in Java for this part, and it's just like You know he's gonna do something like that.
Here's what you have to understand about Jakku is that most people, if they troll you, you kind of imagine that they're sort of laughing on the inside. Jakku is definitely laughing on the outside, and he's
Yeah.
laughing in your presence at
Yeah.
what he's done to you.
Like
So-
he would he's the kind of person that would definitely spend 10 hours doing like deep research on the dark net to try and find some sort of DOS game that would just make you as miserable as possible. Like he would find that a good investment of his time. He would just be like, he's a very busy person, but he would take the 10 hours and just be like, you know what? It's gonna cause enough suffering for someone I care. I'm willing to sacrifice the 10 hours to do it.
I'm just picturing. I'll end on this, but I'm just picturing like asking Jakku to pick a game for us for cart swap, and he's like, okay, I found this 3.5-inch floppy disk that has a cursed game on it, and everyone who plays it dies within 3 days. Here you go.
Yeah. Like I feel like he would write a script that like gets AI to play the game, and AI would tell him how bad the games are. So he would get the analysis from all of that, and he would say, you know, this made AI died after playing this game. This is what you do. Like Pooh plays like it's just different versions of Super Mario World. Like it's all the same game, and I'm not playing Super Mario World, so I'm not trusting him. He's staying on that world. So Xwater, of course, Xwater's clearly the nicest of the three of them, right? He's very handsome. I mean, not that they're not all handsome, but he's very handsome. And he plays Mario, like he plays Mario 64, Mario Odyssey.
He knows what's up. He's played Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney as well.
He's doing like he's doing World Historian, so he might run in a little weird.
I would pick either Xwater or Grand Keys. I think either of them would do a really, really good job at picking a game that I would like. They would hand me the game and say, "Hey, I did 60 hours of research. I watched your stream and considered heavily what you would enjoy and what you wouldn't, and this is what I came up with." And it would be the most thoughtful game in the world.
Yeah, I think they would be really good about it. And Pooh would just give you Jaws or Super Mario World or one of the 900 Super Mario Worlds.
I don't think Pooh would give me anything I didn't like. He would give me one of those, or he would give me Polybridge or something like that. I mean, I'd get a game.
You would do a hack. You would speedrun a ROM hack. I don't want to play Super.
Why wouldn't you?
I'm not broken like you. I don't want to be broken again like that.
Okay,
I've seen what it's done to you.
So on Twitch,
I knew you before you ran Super Mario World. It's a much happier person.
So on Twitch, the Bruceinator84 asks, do you think you would have enjoyed these games more if you beat them casually before trying to speedrun them?
100% no. Not for Pitfall: The Mayan Adventure. I don't think I would enjoy that game casually at all. The only way I would get enjoyment out of that game is speedrunning it, for sure. Like, just explore it. Like as much as it's cool, like what they were going for, I think in 2018, like it's not exactly the most fun levels to explore. It gives you no reward for finding additional treasure or anything. So like it's ultimately interesting, but I don't think I would have enjoyed it, and it would not have at all made speedrunning the game easier in this case. I think in most cases it would, but in this particular game, it wouldn't have made it easier for me at all. And I think that's mostly what he's going for, because neither of us playing it casually, I think it does present challenges when you're going straight into speedrunning something, and I just don't think that benefit would have been reaped. I think this is just the kind of game you have to plug away with and learn how to speedrun it. What about you for Crystal Palace?
I think that Conquest of the Crystal Palace is short enough that it wouldn't have overstayed its welcome. So I think I would have probably enjoyed it even more if I had gotten a chance to play it casually, so I could see what it was. I was sort of the machine that I was raging against.
Sure.
But I think in general, I'm too broken these days to be able to enjoy a game casually.
But do you also think that would it have made learning the speedrun more enjoyable or easy? I would think no, because like ultimately when you're casually playing that game, you're probably going to those shops a lot, buying a lot of healing items and a lot of stuff that you're not going to be using in the speedrun, and I don't know that it necessarily would have adjusted you for any of the game mechanics, right?
Yeah, I think that's probably fair. I don't think it would have made
Maybe
learning it easier, but it would have probably made the game a little more enjoyable.
I can see that.
Yeah, I don't know 100%.
Yeah, I just don't think I think generally it does. Like most of the time I do, for example, taking a game that I beat in Game Boy Quest and then routing it, and then I know kind of what it's like casually and where the different points of snag are, and ultimately you get a little bit of enjoyment realizing the benefits to what you're doing, I guess. Like if you sequence break a particularly hard section, you kind of realize the significance of that a bit more. But when it comes to Pitfall, I really just feel like the speedrun and the casual experience are just so different, foreign from each other, that I don't think it would have helped in any way. I don't think I would have picked up any of the movement mechanics that I would need for the speedrun, and I don't also think that it would have made me like the speedrun anymore. So
That's fair.
yeah. So, if people are looking for you to do the speed runs, where can they find you, my dude?
Yeah, you can find me doing maybe Conquest of the Crystal Palace, who knows, at twitch.tv/AuthorBlues, and you can find me at AuthorBlues at every of the places. How about you?
You can find me at John Carls on Twitch and Twitter, and John Carls1 on YouTube, especially if you want to see me rage against the of Pitfall the Mine Adventure, because I went ahead and highlighted that for y'all, so you could see how frustrated I got. We want to give a huge shout out to anybody who supports the podcast, both on here on the Twitch channel, subbing to us, or on our Patreon. You can find us at patreon.com/theframesavers. Right now, we are doing an incentive. We're pushing to try and get to $300 a month. We're at 260 something. If we hit that $300 a month, we're going to do an episode on Castlevania Symphony of the Night, which both Chad and I have not played. And so we would also play those on stream. So come check out the Patreon if you're considering supporting. That would be a good cause to go towards if you like that game. We want to give a shout out to our $25 a month patrons: Tina Hacks, Mr. Pizak, Kip. You can follow all three of them on the Twitch. Kip with 2 P's. Also, we've got Toasted Muffin Gaming, who you can follow on the Twitch, and then Kevin Hummert, who you can find at Kevin Hummert's house if you know where Kevin Hummert lives. So thank you so much to the 5 of them for supporting the podcast at $25 a month. It really helps us pay hosting fees, editing, all this different stuff, and get us set up for some of the stuff we need to do for the record review now. So thank you so much. Also, just a note, we added it so that even just $1 a month on the Patreon allows you access to the show notes, so you can see those and kind of just see how the sausage is made. You can also just find links to all of our stuff on theframesavers.com. We have a Twitter, we have Discord, we got YouTube, we got all the things you could want. You can find the podcast on all your favorite apps: Stitcher, Google Play, iTunes, all those things. And as always, we do want to give a big old shout out to BMorgs TV. You can find him on Twitter and Twitch sometimes, and he produces this podcast, makes it sound real good. Do you have any thinking thoughts?
Yeah, have a happy Christmas, everyone.
I hope you all have a great Christmas and give each other better gifts than we gave each other.
Bye.
See ya.